one disadvantage of being microchipped or Neuralinked or eye-cameraed or injected with nanotechnology or, being given any kind of technological implants or being the subject of any of these crazy unchecked science experiments is that it's not so easy to run away and you don't really get breaks, especially from the monitoring. And, in this instance, and in probably plenty of other people's, there might not just be one person or one group watching. There could be several different groups watchers, and all those people are able to, interchange each other, work in shifts, alternate who has to, be present or be paying attention or, and unfortunately, when the people who, it might be their job to monitor you, or for whatever reason, they're monitoring you, and, when they become your enemy, it may start to seem, if they become a hidden enemy, someone you can't identify, it will begin to seem as though you have an obsessive, methed out, aggressive, crazy stalker who just never sleeps. If you've ever been a victim of stalking, then you might understand having the thought like, well, maybe if I just wait it out, maybe this person will, get distracted or, find fulfillment in some other area of their life or through someone else. Or, maybe if I wait it out, they will lose their focus. Like, surely no one should be able to keep their attention just focused on one person for that long, right? But no, not only can any old crazy stalker or, even paid stalker not ever lose their focus and attention on you, but they can rally whole armies worth of people to assist them and, to help them with their campaign against whoever they want. The very subject of abusing the psyche has everything to do with hidden abuses, and that ends up tying into a lot of, some of the nastier things that have gone on behind the scenes and out in plain sight in my life that I won't be touching on so much in this video. And I want this to be one of my last videos relating to Neuralink specifically, and I don't really want to give Elon Musk and Neuralink like all the credit for the war that was waged against me and against other civilians. Because he wasn't the only one. They aren't the only, group, cult, organization, just like I said before. The story of my life is bigger than just, what Neuralink did or what Elon Musk did or what, everyone related to the whole situation. It's more than what they did. It is, but that is a huge part of it, and it's just so important that I really can't wait any longer before I let people know. Yeah, there are other agencies, organizations, companies, entities, individuals responsible for the abuses. I wanted to cover this chapter. Kind of in a way before I touch on the more unbelievable things. And before I get into the newer and more advanced technology, also another reason why I've decided to make these videos right now is because I genuinely think that this Elon Musk guy is dangerous. And I think that plenty of other people are dangerous. There's plenty of other people joined to this and who are a part of this who are also quite dangerous. It's not just him. But nowadays, everyone knows who Elon Musk is, especially because he just infiltrated the White House. Everyone knows who Neuralink is. So this is going to be a real common frame of reference that people can identify with me with. I'm also really upset that a key witness to another situation involving child abuse and political scandal was murdered, and it was made to seem like a suicide. And, that was a witness for the Epstein trial that Trump, to be a part of. So I didn't think that it was ironic at all that she would pass away like that within the first 6 months of his time in office. And at the same time that she passed away, Elon Musk was in the White House. And, I'm not sure whether or not she was someone who was the victim of the same technological crimes that I fell victim to. Basically, after being Neuralinked, the test that I would be put through would become a little darker. I think that in my own way that I was passing little tests and getting through things, getting over things, not getting as sick as people wanted me to get, different things like that. And that they were coming up with harder and darker situations for me to deal with. And I didn't know who necessarily was behind it, but I remembered just as a little bitty kid, my grandpa was always telling me about this MK Ultra and telling me not to trust the government, and was telling me about these just horrendous experiments that he'd, I guess, witnessed, the government performing on these young naval recruits, and, just these just terrible stories, just so traumatizing for me to hear as a little kid. It was really upsetting, and he would tell me things like, don't ever trust the government and stuff, and, disturbed isn't even the word for it. But, and it's like I wanted to trust my grandfather, and I knew my grandfather loved me, but, just how bizarre the whole situation is. And, to know that, it wasn't just an issue of corruption or, a little bit of wrongdoing. It was an issue of these extreme, grotesque atrocities, the likes of which, my grandfather had never seen before. And he was actually someone who entered the military between the ages of 14 and 16 pretty earlier than he was really supposed to be in there. And he was apparently exposed to some just absolute travesties. And I'm not sure, but it from the sounds of things, almost seems like he might have been a victim himself to all of that. The supernatural had always been a part of my life, but it was some point after all of this that, as I said, things began to get darker, and the supernatural events that went on around me, the spirit world around me, everything that I went through in that aspect of things began to kind of grow and get louder and become more obvious and more prevalent. And it almost seemed like energy and demons and things like that were literally being sent to me. And I know that this sounds a little bit crazy, but it's part of this pickup of supernatural activity that would end up happening, that ends up actually being part of the story that is even recorded by investigators, unbeknownst to just everyone else. Just yet, anyways. And if a lot of these bad guys had their way, no one would ever find out about any of this. Later on, it would be confirmed that there were like military agents, federal agents, gangsters, hired practitioners, family members, all different kinds of people, cult members, cults and covens all over the world who became a part of this attack on specific civilians who just weren't going down the way that, certain people wanted them to or needed them to. I just knew that everything that I was going through was super unusual. No one ever walked into my life that was someone who was actually leaning towards the supernatural or the spiritual, aside from people in church occasionally, and you can't really talk to them, it seems, about things like this, or even about, demonic manifestations or demonic possession or expelling demons or anything. It's almost like, unless you're talking about, love, peace, and jolly gumdrops and unicorns and rainbows to them, you're not going to have anybody to discuss anything with. So I felt like I had to keep it a secret, and it was just like too much information to get anyone to sit through. I knew that the way that I perceived the spirit world and how it was influencing our world and the interactions in between, I knew that it wasn't like just phooey, that it was true. It might have been a different perception that other people had, but that didn't mean that it was untrue. I just knew that it would be difficult to explain to anyone that if I was going to meet anybody who was going to have the knowledge and the information, they would probably already have the knowledge and information from learning it, through their own experiences in dealing with the spirit world and the supernatural, because there is a whole, science behind it that most people don't know just because they haven't spent as much time in all of that. But I never did really meet anybody who was like as openly able to communicate about and eager to learn and teach about these supernatural things the way that I was. And so it's basically just been just information that I've held on to for myself. And I, was waiting for, to be able to share the information with specific people who I, chose, or even with investigators in private. And I did spend years waiting for what I dreamed of as like, or, what I kind of dreamed of like the FBI or some law enforcement related group rescuing me all this time, basically. But it didn't really go down like that. Like, I knew that the government was putting contracts on me, or that government agents, NSA agents, whatever, I knew that people were contracting out on me, putting hits on me, because I had at least one person, if not multiple, I think I even maybe had two people admit to me that they had accepted contracts on me. So, through everything that happened, it would seem that a lot of the people who were hired to be perpetrators genuinely didn't agree with the jobs that they had been given. It took me a long time to figure out how to express any of it or explain any of it. And it took me a long time to understand that if I would just put the information out there, that even though I might be rejected and ridiculed, that there still will be people who care. It is especially difficult to speak up about such a tyrant. I will admit that I had to sit down and wonder whether or not Elon Musk was the Antichrist. Because, as a Christian, I grew up on stories about this mark of the beast crap. And then, to wake up with something in my skull, or to wake up with a lump on the back of my head, and, or to wake up with some, weird technology in my ear or a camera in my eye. And you know what I mean? I've been made a cyborg of, but I didn't ask for any of that. None of it benefits me. It's not like I can all of a sudden make an adjustment, all of a sudden get Wi-Fi or have free phone service or something like that. It's not like if I lose something or forget something that I can rewind my own point of view and be able to figure out what I did with that one thing. It's also been really scary to speak up, especially after those sacrifices. There were some sacrifices that I was subject to, but I get into that a little bit later. And then recently, to find out all of the different world leaders that are involved, that's also really scary, to be honest, to hear about the Saudi Arabian, all these different kings and presidents and stuff. I mean, it's not that it isn't intimidating. It's quite intimidating. It does take a lot to be able to step forward and open my mouth and actually, use my voice. And then also, I know that Elon Musk isn't that serious about Neuralink. Otherwise, they would have had more than one human subject, but they know that to do so would just be completely barbaric. There are, newer, more advanced tech companies and microchips and, just different advancements, different devices and methods, and those were made globally. China has little brain. I think that they even have non-invasive methods of reading brain activity and stuff now. They don't even have to cut into skin or the skull or anything. Got little tiny microchips and little tiny implants and stuff like that. So I know that he's not going to be that butthurt about, his outdated, weird product that he wants to pretend he didn't come up with 20 or 30 years ago. He wants to act like he just came up with that or whatever. And secretly on the down low, they did kind of come up with something that was, at least smaller. It's not any less invasive or safe. It's not any safer. The Neuralink idea was a freak show. And behind the scenes, some nasty AI bio nanotechnology was engineered. And that is kind of like what their secret advancement or whatever. There's a lot of, secretive crap to this, and it kind of joins into an MK Ultra MK Ultra project. And then I write here, while everyone moves dates and times around to support their new alibis, even if they didn't all just change the date and time frame, the fact still remains that it's 2025, and I just watched a video yesterday made only a year ago about the results of what they claim to be the first human trials for the Neuralink brain implant. The narrator was esteeming this chip, saying it would be put through all these different phases, more human trials in the future. And like I said, this video had only been made a year ago. And this simply is not true. And they know that it's not true, and they're literally just playing in your face with the little videos that they make. All right, so they have this nanoplasma injection now. Injectable miniature biological robots. So, no one will ever need a giant Neuralink thing that, requires 64 tentacles to be shot into your brain beforehand. No one will ever need any nasty little thing like that again, and they know it. So yeah, whenever I get through all of this Neuralink crap, I'll be able to talk more about the little biological robots and weird stuff like that. And I heard that Wuhan, China, actually, the Wuhan, China labs has a little bit to do with some of these injections, and then other injections and nanotechnology are Elon Musk's secret crap that he came up with, new AI sciences, which is what he is just obsessed with, keeping us as slaves to test out on AI crap. As far as their what they're claiming to be their first human test subject, I think it's wrong that they didn't use any of the tech or any of the cash that they had or any of their science to actually help the man function physically. After they alleged that the original purpose behind Neuralink was for the to help people walk again, to help the blind see, to help the healing. Elon Musk was going to be like Jesus with his Neuralink, performing miracles with his giant brain implant. So, I mean, really, whether it's been 50 years ago or even just 5 years ago, no one has been healed of any paralytic disorders or injuries. You haven't helped one person to be able to pee again on their own. Honestly, I would think that would be way more important than playing chess with your mind. And if we really look back to the true reason that Elon Musk alleges that he created Neuralink, all right, so he basically gives two reasons. At first, he says he wants to help all of these people be able to walk again, right? But then later on, he says, I created Neuralink specifically to address the AI. Sorry, it's just so fucking dorky to me. I created Neuralink specifically to address the AI symbiosis problem, which I think is an existential threat. So by his own admittal, and in his own words, we catch him contradicting himself at least this one time. It was never his point to heal anyone or improve the quality of their life. Playing ping pong on a screen is not improving the quality of life. His concern has only been for this weird sci-fi fantasy of turning people into cyborgs, going to Mars, studying us using AI, studying us under high stress. Really sick things, information that really has not been disclosed to the public yet. Elon Musk has funded government, federal, local corruption and destruction. He funds police corruption and human trafficking. He's paid NSA, FBI agents especially to go along with his crap. He's involved in a lot of dirty things unbeknownst to the whole world, and people really need more of a heads up about it than they've been given. It's a dirty human experimentation scandal. It's a violation of international human rights laws, and it's a huge violation of the Nuremberg Code. It's by far the worst corruption I've ever heard of. A few years ago, they attacked me. It was part of like a Christian persecution thing, and it was to run me out of town, and people were trying to get me to just like completely lose my mind or whatever, because they'd already deemed me incompetent in court behind my back because they were getting Social Security checks and annuity checks in my name. And I guess they've been doing that for the last 20 years or something. And so they had just the most horrific homicides, and they held them really close to me. They live streamed them. I've never seen or heard the likes of what they did ever before in my life. It was the most gruesome, traumatic event ever that I've ever experienced. I ended up getting amnesia after that. I had amnesia for over a year. I ran away from the town that I was in. I took my little boy and I ran, and we just ran. And there were a couple points that we had to stay, that we stayed in places, and we would be attacked while we were staying in those places, and we would be kept in such a way that we would even be starved. So it did upset me, pretty bad to see Elon Musk walking around with a little boy on his shoulders and stuff, pretending to be like a good dad, pretending that he cares about kids whenever like, I had to watch my own little boy like starve, and my little boy had to watch me go through a lot, and all my kids, my whole family went through so much every single day over these people and their energy harvesting campaigns and everything else that they've done. Those sacrifices were the most terrifying thing I ever experienced in my life. Beforehand, over the years, they were able to make so much of my life dark and terrible and tormenting. And so many people were working together to, I guess, try to get me to commit suicide because they'd taken out these life insurance policies without my knowledge. And I guess one of the ways that they were going to be able to collect off of those policies is if I were to commit suicide. So they really tried their best to try to get me to do that. And not just for a little while, they've tried to get me to do that for like the last between 13, at least 13 years, if not way longer than that. It's a real shame. After the satanic sacrifices, I fled from my home. It was a 3-bedroom apartment. And this would be the beginning of something called the Hunger Games. And I was basically hunted and tracked across the nation. It's the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced. I would feel my energy whenever I would get really strong with like fear and terror. I would actually feel my energy leaving my body while I was in this Hunger Games crap or whatever. And I'd actually never been so terrified in my entire life. And it was like this terror, just this astonishing terror that it felt like that a supernatural force was holding my body together and keeping me alive, because it felt like that I was so afraid that I could have just died. And I would notice that the more energy that I would create with this fear that I had, the more that I would feel energy leaving my body. And for the first time, I felt this energy just leaving my body and me being drained. And I automatically knew that it was some kind of weird technological stuff that they had injected me with or implanted, or something that they had done to me to make it to where they were pulling energy from me as though I was a battery, and that my energy was going to power something. That's whenever I really had to accept that I had been merged with some technology, and a way more advanced technology than I had ever heard of. Or maybe I had heard of it, and it was like everyone around me, both before I ran away and after, it was like they were all holding me as some form of hostage, and just whether they meant to, or whether they did it directly, or they had other people orchestrate it and they pretended that they had nothing to do with it, they would just create these mortifying, cruel, strange, terrifying situations around me, all the time. And this tech would help them to accomplish cruelty and torture, to begin with, and then the tech would help them to drain the energy that they would need from it afterwards as well. Yeah, and they use this technology and have been using it to accomplish sex trafficking and exploitation. I would be attacked for everything I had and pushed out on the streets, run all over the nation for over 3 years. The majority of the time I was out there during the Biden regime, I basically had really nasty things happen to me during the Trump and Biden administration. Abuse doesn't discriminate between Democrat and Republican. It's an evil that affects both wings, both the left and the right. It's sin that hurts children, that hurts innocent people. It shouldn't matter whether a Democrat or a Republican is responsible. And unfortunately, grown men have taken the tears and sadness and struggle of innocent women and children and turned it into a political fiasco, an absolute political circus built almost entirely on the tears and blood of children. It's absolutely horrendous. So basically being pushed out, after I was pushed out onto the streets, my reports about stalkers, abusers, and offenders were ignored. I began making those reports 13 years ago, and then I made them a little bit more heavily whenever I was 33 years old. And right now I believe that I'm 39 years old. I've never had anyone come to me, speak to me, approach me, subpoena me, help me in any way about any of the reports that I've ever made. I've just been basically treated like I don't exist, except for, the fact that people have to breathe down my neck and watch me 24/7. I can't live a regular life without being harassed and set up in all these different ways, and being bullied, and people putting things in my food and my weed. And every time that I go to a restaurant, I can almost guarantee that someone is doing something to my food. I don't even go to McDonald's anymore because of what I heard they got caught doing on camera after I left from there, which is one of the sickest ways that I've had anyone make me sick ever. And it wasn't just me. They got little kids sick with that stuff too. But they don't care. That's what they do. Because these guys get to thinking, that their tech and that their ideas are just so valuable and so important that they have to impose them on us and just on random civilians or whatever, and or even monkeys. And it's like, even though you want to pretend that it's only been 8 years, it's actually been plenty more years than that, at least a decade more, something like that. And we're still not using that stupid Neuralink thing because it was stupid to begin with. It wasn't any good. And nobody's going to need to ever use it again. It's outdated. So see, you went and you hurt people, and it was because you were so excited about your idea. And really, those people and their brains and their kids and their lives mattered way more than your stupid, silly little device. Yeah, and just because someone shoots rockets into the sky over and over and over again does not make them the smartest person on the planet. Okay, the leader of North Korea shoots rockets into the sky. It doesn't make him a rocket scientist. So anyways, people along the way have been paid a great deal of money to have me stalked, hunted, harassed, abused, mocked, poisoned, rejected, as they have tried to prepare me for organ harvesting, as I mentioned before. And, well, something much worse than that they had planned also. They hunt me down and work together to have me robbed. They hold me hostage places. Guys try to get me to mess with them as a way of being rude. Even though, and that's just become how society is now, which is really sad and terrible. It's like the biblical days of Noah. Like, this is all Sodom and Gomorrah. It's all Babylon now. Like, all anyone cares about, even if that's not what everyone cares about, they were still able to surround me everywhere I went with people who are a part of their trafficking network. And they made it so that for at least 2 or 3 solid years, everyone around me was consumed with this crappy drug and sex life that the elitists want to see me engage in so bad. And it is so fucking annoying. Like, bruh, I'm almost 40 years old. I can understand we had a real good time back in the day, but I really just can't party like that anymore. So they ran me out of my home. I had to give up a vehicle cheaper than I wanted to when that happened. At this point, that's happened 3 times over, because anytime that I gain anything like a vehicle that's nice or whatever, they'll hunt me down and they'll destroy my vehicle, and then they'll railroad me and make it to where I'm like surrounded by these people who are like telling me that the only thing I can get out of my vehicle is $300 or $500 or whatever, even though I just paid like $2,000 for it just a couple months ago, and it's tied into the Freemasons and all that. So they can literally just have me surrounded by anybody they want, anytime they want, and just watch, and just have a good time. Right. So whenever I was set up to experience the sacrifices and stuff like that, and I ran away, that was apparently the beginning of something that they call the Hunger Games. And just like the movie, it is apparently a real thing. And the firstborn, especially, or of a family, or the tribute, whoever offers you up, one of your family members or someone can offer you up as a tribute, and you're then, you're offered up as a sacrifice. And, some people, if they reach a certain deadline and they haven't been sacrificed yet, they're put through something called the Hunger Games. Basically, I was hunted and tracked across the nation. And in the Hunger Games, you can't really get help from cops. You can't really get help from shelters. You're not going to be able to get help from anybody. You're not going to be able to get help from gangs, churches. Even if you stop at like a Salvation Army shelter, or like a Catholic charity shelter or something like that, or in a homeless shelter or anything, you're going to end up getting bullied. You're going to be bullied really badly. People are going to be doing horrendous things to you, poisoning you, all that, because you've been set up as a tribute, which means they're going to organ harvest you, and worse. All right, and then I don't want to end another entry without mentioning a mistake that I made, because I don't want to misrepresent my situation, which is that I think a couple of videos ago I said something about how I had some kind of a drug issue in my 20s, but I don't want to misrepresent myself, as I said, so I'll just say it like this, that the drugs and the crime, all of that world has always been a part of my life, and that I had to figure out that they were using it to try to destroy my life and to make me look some type of way, and I had to get out of it myself and get over things like alcohol and addiction on my own, because whenever I did have an addiction issue and I asked my family for help, they said that the only help they were willing to give me was to put me into a mental institution. And I said, well, why do I need to go to a mental institution if all I need is help for alcohol, So I would have to get over my problems like that by myself, and they were absolute no help in that. And the elite, when they're looking through an eye, they don't want to see civilians safe and sound and people doing well. They want to see drug use. They want to see people shooting up. They want to see people prostituting themselves. They want to see fighting. They want to see violence. They want to see mayhem. They want to see people dying. They want to see all kinds of brutality and all kinds of morbidity. They want to see lots of sex. They want to see lots of drug use. They want to see somebody in a lot of pain and misery and, confused. And so drugs would be like, such a big part of it. Basically until I got attacked so badly that which these attacks would go on, you know what I mean? It would be like an all the time thing, but one time I got attacked so badly that it made it obvious that people were watching and judging me, and because of that, I changed my behavior. And honestly, I don't agree that that was something that anyone should have been allowed to do to me. I should say it like this, which is that everyone else around me was allowed to use drugs and have fun and have a good time. But, I kind of wasn't. Even though I might have drank or used, I wasn't actually allowed to use very much. And, or maybe there were times later on where people would be trying to overdose me, and then, yeah. But, people, for the most part, they would almost set me up to use and then make it to where like really bad stuff would happen. And it was almost like they were treating me as though I wasn't allowed to use. Like they were trying to train me like not to have fun using or something like that, which honestly is kind of stupid. Like sometimes they would set these situations up, and if I used anything at all, they would create these insane, orchestrate these insane events and make it the most insane traumatic experience. And I also think that is really abusive, to monitor someone and then to drug them or to have them drugged or to get them to use and then to attack them and abuse them in cruel ways while they're messed up. But like, these are just the weird, wretched things that people did along the way. And some of these people who I would be interacting with in the drug and crime world would end up being murdered. And I am going to be making some videos to discuss those people. So yeah, I didn't want to throw things off. It was like I said something, but it was like I only said half of it, and I didn't want to feel like I was like misrepresenting myself. But I'm also not trying to jump out here and act like I'm some kind of junkie drug addict and stuff like that, because I'm really not. These days I'm pretty mellow. I smoke some weed. I smoke some CBD. That's really none of anyone's fucking business, but that is part of my life right now. Just me being transparent, just me being an honest person. Like, I don't drink, I don't smoke cigarettes. My health is really important to me. I don't take pills, I don't do medication, I don't involve myself in risky behavior. I really do love myself. There are people in this world who I love very much. Might only be a handful of them, but I love them very much, and I really was not interested in leaving, on, Elon Musk's time frame or anyone else's timing, by their standards, of how or when that I needed to go. I really just don't agree with that. I don't agree with you guys being allowed to just pick people out of the crowd and just decide that they should go, that they don't deserve to be here, or that their kids matter less than your kids or whatever. It is really, truly insulting, and none of the people who do things like that pretty much ever get to hear back from the very, very bottom dwellers who they do that to. They never really get to hear back from the ground, unless they are, listening in on somebody's, monitoring someone, through their surveillance or whatever, and most of these people don't know that they're being monitored so heavily. But I can guarantee you that everyone who's being targeted for death, those people definitely notice. And if you would like to know more about how the government hit list works, you can... I believe that the documentary is called The Disposition Matrix, about the official government kill list. You can also just YouTube search government kill list, and it should come up. That is something really interesting that everybody should watch. So that does, apply to what I've been talking about here. When I realized that people were really watching me and really judging me that heavily and really attacking me for, if they saw me slipping up or whatever, like for every single thing that I would do wrong, it was like, or that every mistake that I would make, even if it wasn't me like deliberately and intentionally being wrong, it was like, and even some of the things that they would set me up, or some of the ways that they would set me up to get hurt or to fall into a trap, like I wasn't even doing anything wrong. So it was like, I don't know, it's just extra stupid. It's like having an extra stupid stalker who doesn't really understand the difference between right and wrong correctly to begin with or something. Like when they come up with the plans as adults all together, it sounds really adulty, but whenever they actually carry it out, it's like childish. It's like a plan that a bunch of kids came up with. Part of the slavery and trafficking that just happened. It's able to go down like that because the world is saturated in crime. Like I said, the wealth class who watch, they're not entertained by safety and security. They're entertained by, something terrible or absurd, something that they've never seen before. So basically from a certain time frame, even though I had never been a prostitute before, and I'd been around a lot of pot, but I hadn't made meth use a life sentence, or hard drug use. Like I wasn't trying to be a lot lizard. I wasn't trying to make it like a, like I said, like a life sentence and stuff. And at different times I would feel like I'd partied enough. Plenty of people go through that. Hey, we partied this weekend. I need to get back to my kids. I need to get back to life as I know it. I need to, you know what I mean? And I would get back to just normal. And that was, kind of, that's kind of a habit, or a, almost like a schedule. Like parents almost kind of like come up with their own party schedule. Like, yeah, it's cool. We can cut loose and we can hang out for a second here, but afterwards I really need to get back to my kid. It's not for people who want to actually be responsible parents, and a lot of the traffickers and pieces of shit who are sent in to do this stuff, they don't understand what that is. They don't understand that a parent can leave from their life and go party for a second, go to a bar, go out, have a good time, come home, go to bed, wake up, go get the kids the next day, and everything be just fine. There are, these people who they have to, be doing meth and, heroin and running around and partying 24/7, and they don't understand what it would be like to only do that, once every a weekend, once in a while, or on the weekends, or they don't understand the notion of just doing that for fun and recreation. For them, it is a lifestyle. And so there's been like, it would be major for me, this clash between people who are sent in, who are just completely crazy out there, who are pretending to be on their best behavior, that I know that my own family sent in, and so it would start, I think around the age of 30, or no, it was even before that, I would go through bouts of just not letting people into my house, around me, in my life at all, and I would just try to calm down and let my life be calm and peaceful and not have anyone around, and just try to stay away from everybody. And that would go on sometimes for years at a time. So in between all of this chaos and, people being sent to me in my life, I did, there were times that I would shut the door and not let anybody in. And that would go on for months and years because of just how severe this issue was. So I actually had to start this video earlier once, and then I let it run a little while, and then I had to stop it as I messed up, and so I had to start over again. So if I made mistakes and went back and forth in this one, I'm really sorry. This is the first time that I've basically read from a script while I've been trying to do this, and it's a little bit bizarre for me, but, and it's also really late, but I really wanted to get this one out. Anyways, it was a little bit bizarre, but it was all right. And I'm just going to I guess in that there and this here, I might make a summary video tomorrow or thereabouts, and that be the conclusion for, video 15, the conclusion for my little Neuralink story. I think that basically everything else and all the other details would be better represented outside of this story in particular. But this one would not have been full without mentioning all these strange details, and I'm still not finished yet. I would also like to get into, how this deals with, how this ended up affecting the supernatural and the extraterrestrial. So, it ends up getting a little bit weird. And then that's going to be it for the Neuralink Elon Musk thing, because as I said, I don't want to give him too much attention, and I don't want to give them too much credit for all of the horrendous crimes and death and tragedy that's gone on around me, even though he and those he is connected to are basically 100% responsible for all of it. I still don't want to give any one person too much credit, and I hope that they all individually, I know that justice is between God and I, and I am not going to make any more comments about that at the moment.